25 iconic 1980s. Stores that couldn't be saved. At one time, these were the stores everyone visited. Places where you could try on clothes, listen to music, and even drop your children off at a play area while shopping. Now, they are all just memories. What happened to these shopping cathedrals that once defined the 80s? Let's explore the legendary names that have vanished over time. Radio Shack. For electronics enthusiasts in the 80s, Radio Shack was a store. It was the DIY technology heaven. Stepping into Radio Shack, you could smell the distinctive scent of new electronic components and the latent magic in every drawer, every shelf. The store was likened to a beacon of electronic wonder, attracting people who needed exactly one coil, one resistor, or a hard-to-find connector. Before the internet exploded, if you needed an emergency battery or a special cable, Radio Shack was the only place you could rely on. Radio Shack's role was even greater than that. It played a key role in the early days of personal computers with the TRS-80, one of the first affordable home computers, bringing technology into the homes of thousands of people. The chain initially started in 1921 through mail order, specializing in serving amateur radio. However, as technology became increasingly accessible through large retailers and then the rise of online shopping, Radio Shack struggled to maintain its unique niche. Management issues along with the digital development led to bankruptcy in 2015. Although it attempted to transition into an e-commerce website in 2020, the golden era of the physical components heaven has ended. Blockbuster Video. In the 80s and 90s, Blockbuster Video was the reigning king of movie rentals and an essential symbol of Friday nights. The feeling of walking through the doors and seeing the bright blue and yellow logo sign became a ritual for families. Founded in 1985 in Dallas, Texas, Blockbuster represented the physical entertainment experience. Strolling among the movie shelves, touching the VHS or DVD cases, and debating which film would be the highlight of the weekend. Its peak was astonishing. By 2004, the chain had over 9,000 stores globally, employing more than 80,000 staff. But this empire collapsed quickly. The first wrong move was poor management and the refusal to adapt to technological changes. When Netflix's mail order service began to grow, followed by the appearance of video on demand, Blockbuster could not catch up. The convenience of streaming completely overshadowed the physical shelf browsing experience and the fear of late return fees. Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy protection, and the last lights on most stores truly went out in 2014, ending an era that is now only a nostalgic memory. Abraham and Straus, A&S. Abraham and Straus, often shortened to A&S, was an iconic name, representing the luxury of department stores in New York City. Looking back at the 1980s, A&S was more than just a place to shop. It was a social venue where people looked for high-quality clothing, shoes, housewares, and jewelry. With a long history dating back to 1865, A&S carried a prestige and classic feel that few retail chains could match. These stores were an integral part of the major city's retail structure, attracting customers with a blend of premium merchandise and traditional service. By the 1990s, the overall retail landscape underwent a major shift. Federated Department Stores, the parent company of major rival Macy's, acquired A&S. For many brand enthusiasts, this was a foreshadowing of the end. The transition was quick. The respectable Abraham and Straus name officially vanished in April 1995. A&S stores were replaced by Macy's branches. This disappearance ended a part of New York shopping history, swallowed by the consolidation of large corporations. Toys R Us. Just hearing the name is enough to recall laughter, bright lights, and the excitement of a child standing before countless toys. This was not just a toy store. Toys R Us was a universe of wonder. It was a beloved destination, a heaven where childhood dreams came true. The image of Geoffrey the giraffe and the timeless jingle, "I don't want to grow up. I'm a Toys R Us kid," captured the brand's pure appeal and joy. In the 80s, it was the center of holiday traditions, where parents lined up to buy the hottest items like Cabbage Patch Kids and Transformers. But even such a powerful toy empire could not withstand the times. Toys R Us faced two fatal enemies. First, fierce competition from giant mass retailers like Walmart and Target. Second, and more importantly, was the heavy debt burden from a previous leveraged buyout. When online shopping strongly emerged, offering superior convenience compared to the in-store experience that was Toys R Us's unique advantage, the chain failed to adapt. The decline led to filing for bankruptcy and the closure of most stores in the US, UK, and Australia. Babbage's. For technology enthusiasts and gamers in the early 80s, Babbage's was a familiar and promising name. The store was born in 1987, initially focusing on retailing personal computer software. During this time, finding quality and the newest software required a specialized destination, and Babbage's met exactly that need. The store quickly grew, becoming a hotspot for tech fans, eager for video games and emerging electronic products. It represented the cultural shift as personal computers and digital entertainment began to take over households. The story of Babbage's is not one of complete decline, but of evolution. As the game console market exploded and reshaped the entertainment retail industry, Babbage's skillfully transformed itself to embrace the new gaming era. This iconic transition culminated in 1999, when this iconic 80s brand became GameStop. Although the name Babbage's has disappeared, it left a legacy as the foundation for a later game retail giant. This renaming marked the shift from a personal computer software focus to the dominance of video games, reflecting changing consumer priorities. If this video brings back good memories, please support it. Your support will help nostalgic content like this live on. Woolworths. More accurately, the F.W. Woolworth Company. It was a retail giant that deeply influenced American history, founded in 1879. Stepping into the 1980s, the chain carried a huge legacy. It pioneered the concept of the five and dime store. Woolworths was famous not only for cheap items, but also for its lunch counter, which served affordable meals and played a significant role in social history, especially during the civil rights movement. Woolworths was an integral part of the downtown and shopping mall experience for decades. Customers could find everything from household goods, clothing, to jewelry. However, by the late 80s, the retail environment had changed significantly. Woolworths faced fierce competition from larger, more modern discount stores, such as Walmart. While these competitors adopted the efficient big box model, Woolworths struggled to adapt and modernize. Ultimately, this diverse department store chain had to close, although its parent company successfully transitioned to sporting goods retail. Circuit City. Circuit City emerged in the 1980s as an unmissable destination for consumers seeking new technology. With its characteristic red logo, it was the destination for everything related to electronics. From TVs, stereo systems, computers, to video games, Circuit City offered it all, turning the store into a heaven for gadget lovers. Their groundbreaking concept, the Circuit City Superstore, launched in the 80s, revolutionized the electronics retail industry by offering a wide variety of products under one large roof. This provided convenience and selection that smaller electronic stores could not match. Even pioneers can stumble. In the 21st century, Circuit City began to face severe difficulties. The 2008 financial crisis dealt a heavy blow to consumer spending, especially for non-essential electronic items. At the same time, the rise of online shopping and competition from other big box chains eroded their market share. The inability to compete on price and convenience led to an irrecoverable decline. Circuit City finally filed for bankruptcy and proceeded with a complete liquidation of operations in January 2009, closing the doors of one of the most famous electronics retail brands. Hollywood Video. If Blockbuster was the king, Hollywood Video was certainly their strongest contender for the throne. Founded in 1988, this video rental chain once thrived and quickly expanded to become Blockbuster's main rival. Hollywood Video stood out with its large area stores, allowing them to house a huge selection, about 16,000 VHS tapes and later DVDs. The experience at Hollywood Video was similar to Blockbuster. The excitement of finding a new release, the feeling of strolling through genres, and the social interaction of discussing movies with friends. The fate of Hollywood Video was tied to the survival of the physical entertainment format. When streaming services like Netflix and Hulu began to emerge and become popular, the convenience of watching movies at home with just one click overshadowed the physical shelf browsing experience. Why drive to the store and face the risk of late fees when you can watch instantly? This shift was too fast and too radical. Hollywood Video's parent company, Movie Gallery, declared Chapter 7 bankruptcy in 2010. Sam Goody. You know, Sam Goody was the heaven for music lovers. Starting from a small record store in New York in the late 1940s, Sam Goody grew into a retail empire. The chain was famous in the 80s as the ideal place to find vinyl records, cassette tapes, and later CDs, becoming an important destination for anyone wanting to update their music collection. Notably, Sam Goody pioneered mail-order sales at a discount price for LPs, an innovative strategy at the time. Walking into Sam Goody was a cultural experience. The feeling of flipping through albums, reading the liner notes, and discovering new artists. This was an integral part of the physical music experience of the 80s and 90s. But then, the digital revolution dealt a fatal blow to the physical music retail industry. The arrival of MP3s, online downloads, and piracy profoundly disrupted their business model. Although acquired by Best Buy, the parent company Musicland was unsuccessful. Sam Goody faced bankruptcy in 2006, leading to the closure of most stores. Peaches Records and Tapes. Peaches Records and Tapes, a name associated with unique music culture, was a true cultural center in the 80s. Established in 1975, the chain quickly expanded to about 50 stores, offering a wide range of music genres, attracting a large number of avid fans. What truly made Peaches memorable was its visual element. Peaches stores were famous for the colorful, giant album covers decorated on the outside of the buildings. This was not just a record store, but also a piece of street art, creating a strong and appealing brand identity. Peaches created an immersive shopping experience where the music-loving community gathered. However, even cultural innovation and strong identity could not protect the chain from financial turmoil. As physical formats, CDs, cassettes, vinyl, began to decline and the market became saturated, Peaches faced severe difficulties. It's moving to recall these entertainment cathedrals. Do you still keep any souvenir from Blockbuster or Sam Goody? Share your most nostalgic moment in the comments section. KB Toys. KB Toys was the nation's leading mall-based toy empire, a name every child in the 80s and 90s knew. Founded in 1922, KB Toys started as a small family store chain. During its peak, the chain dominated large and small shopping malls. KB Toys stores were usually compact, but always filled with the newest toys, from action figures to video games, making it a mandatory stop on any mall trip. The KB Toys experience is the joy of discovery among cramped shelves, different from the vast spaces of Toys R Us. However, the focus on shopping malls became KB Toys' Achilles heel. Like Hollywood Video, the rise of online shopping and mass retailers overshadowed it. When customers started abandoning malls to switch to online shopping or larger stores, KB Toys' profits were severely affected. The company could not compete on price and convenience. Despite having a long and beloved history, KB Toys finally closed in 2009, marking the end of another mall toy icon. Lionel Kitty City. Lionel Kitty City was an important name in toy retail history, once the second largest toy store chain in the US, after Toys R Us. Starting as a toy supermarket in 1957, the chain grew vigorously and peaked at about 150 stores. Kitty City, owned by the Lionel Corporation, offered a large space similar to Toys R Us, where children and parents could find every kind of toy, from model trains to the newest products on the market. Lionel Kitty City's path was fraught with financial difficulties. The early 1980s economic recession dealt a severe blow to the parent company, forcing Lionel to file for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in 1982. Although the chain attempted to recover and maintained about 100 stores by 1991, the competition from major rivals and the financial burden remained too great. Ultimately, the company made the painful decision to liquidate and close all stores in June 1993. Even the second largest players in the market were not immune to economic pressures and fierce competition in the toy retail industry. Borders Books. For many, Borders Books was a peaceful sanctuary overflowing with knowledge in the 80s and 90s. Founded in 1971, Borders grew into a nationwide phenomenon, noted for its huge selection of books, maps, CDs, DVDs. It created a true cultural center where customers could spend hours browsing the shelves, enjoying a cup of coffee, and feeling the academic atmosphere. Borders represented the era of big box book superstores, where the vast space encouraged exploration and relaxation. The rise of Borders was also its downfall. The company failed to adapt to online selling in the digital age, a major strategic mistake. While its main rival Barnes & Noble made efforts to invest in its own digital platform, an emerging competitor, Amazon dominated the online market, Borders struggled to find direction. Fierce competition and financial difficulties accumulated. Borders could not withstand this and filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection in February 2011, leading to the liquidation and closure of all stores, ending a golden era of the physical book superstore. Walden Books. Walden Books was a beloved name for mall shoppers throughout the 80s. Unlike Borders or independent stores, Walden Books was usually nestled within the mall space, easily accessible and an essential part of the overall shopping experience. Starting in 1933 during the Great Depression, it was initially a rental library for books priced at just 3 cents per day. Walden Books then transitioned to book retail, especially cheap paperbacks and bestsellers. The store created a sense of community among readers by organizing book clubs and events. For many years, Walden Books was the nation's main supplier of paperback books. However, the rise of larger bookstores like Barnes & Noble, which offered broader spaces and coffee, reduced Walden Books' appeal. The fatal blow came from Amazon in the late 1990s, which changed how people bought books forever. Walden Books was acquired by Borders Group in 1995. When the parent company Borders faced financial difficulties and proceeded with liquidation, Walden Books shared the same fate. The brand was finally eliminated in 2011, marking the end of a popular type of mall bookstore. CompUSA. In the 80s and 90s, CompUSA was the one-stop heaven for everything related to computers and consumer electronics. Originally called Soft Warehouse when founded in 1984, CompUSA quickly developed into a nationwide big box chain. Customers could find personal computers, software, peripherals, and technology products along with computer services, all under one roof. At its peak, the chain reached at least 229 locations, demonstrating its strength in providing technology to consumers. Walking into CompUSA, you would be overwhelmed by the rows of computers and accessories, clearly sensing the rapid development of personal technology. The rapid development of this industry itself led to the collapse of CompUSA. The company faced fierce competition from other traditional electronics retailers and mass retailers who began selling computers at lower prices. This severely reduced CompUSA's profits. Starting in 2006, the chain began closing poorly performing locations. Among all these stores, which one did your family visit the most? Share your feelings with us. The Sharper Image. The Sharper Image represented a completely different retail segment in the 80s: luxury, innovation, and the future. Starting in 1977 through a catalog selling jogging watches, the retail store chain later became famous for its high-end, futuristic gadgets. This was the place you went to find unique and expensive gifts, from massage chairs, air purifiers, to other strange electronic devices. At its peak, the chain had up to 187 stores. The Sharper Image created a unique shopping environment where customers could try out the newest technologies and sometimes unnecessary but appealing products. This uniqueness was not enough to protect them from difficulties. The store chain faced controversies and lawsuits related to one of their most famous products, the Ionic Breeze air purifier. These legal issues and doubts about product effectiveness tarnished the brand and seriously affected consumer confidence. Coupled with 4 years of sales losses and 3 consecutive years of losses, the Sharper Image could not maintain operations. Kinney Shoes. Kinney Shoes was a prominent shoe retailer, a household name in most shopping malls during the 80s. This was where families came to buy affordable footwear for the entire family. For many, Kinney Shoes was a popular and essential location for back-to-school shopping, where they could find many styles of footwear from formal to athletic. The store built a reputation for convenience and value, becoming an integral part of families' annual shopping routine. During the golden era of the shopping mall, Kinney Shoes thrived. As the 80s and 90s passed, the shoe retail landscape began to change. Similar to many other specialized stores, consumer preferences shifted toward larger retailers or sports-focused chains, where they could find a wider variety of footwear at more competitive prices. Kinney Shoes struggled to maintain profitability and relevance in an increasingly fragmented and competitive market. Ultimately, the decline led to the chain closing in 1998, ending the decades-long journey of an affordable footwear icon. Sears. Sears was not just a store, it was a retail powerhouse that shaped the American consumer industry for most of the 20th century. In the 1980s, Sears was still a major player, offering countless products, from clothing, home appliances, to garden tools. It was famous for its own major brands such as reliable Kenmore appliances and Craftsman tools. Even in the physical store era, Sears was renowned for its catalog, especially the Christmas wish book that many generations of children looked forward to. Sears was once a major player in the credit market, owning the Discover card and Allstate, demonstrating its immense stature. However, even such a great empire could not withstand stagnation. Despite its best efforts, Sears stores began losing money right in the 1980s. Their outdated business model, coupled with the inability to compete effectively with emerging rivals like Walmart in supply chain management and Target in creating a modern shopping experience, led to a relentless decline. Venture Stores. Venture Stores was a beloved discount department store especially popular in the Midwestern U.S. Founded in 1968, Venture quickly became an important destination for families seeking affordable prices while maintaining style. By the late 80s, the chain operated over 70 stores, dominating major markets in the Midwest. Their famous advertising slogan was "Save at Venture, Save with Style," SWS, reflecting the commitment to balancing low cost and product quality. Venture was an essential destination for back-to-school shopping and other family necessities. Competition in the discount segment became extremely fierce. Venture faced fierce competition from emerging discount giants like Walmart and Target, who were capable of operating more efficiently and on a much larger scale. Furthermore, expansion efforts in the 1990s overstretched the company's resources, causing irreversible financial difficulties. Managing too many stores in various regions increased operating costs and reduced profits. After filing for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in January 1998, Venture closed the entire chain within 6 months, concluding the story of a beloved discount chain. Caldor. Caldor was a discount retail chain with a unique style, often called the Bloomingdale's of the discount industry. This nickname was not accidental. Caldor, founded in 1951, was famous for offering premium quality merchandise at significantly lower prices, often 10% to 40% below the manufacturer's suggested retail price. Customers came to Caldor because they knew they could find slightly better goods than other discount rivals, creating an enhanced yet economical shopping experience. Caldor achieved significant success with revenues exceeding the $1 billion mark by 1985. It was a strong competitor in the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. However, like many other retailers, Caldor could not withstand the severe financial storms of the 1990s. Although premium quality was an advantage, Caldor struggled to compete on scale and efficiency with rivals like Kmart and Walmart. Ultimately, the chain had to liquidate all 145 of its stores. Caldor's collapse shows that even a retail model combining quality and affordability cannot survive without sufficient scale and capital to fight against mass retail giants. Do you remember any other stores from the 80s that we missed? Please add them to the list. Kmart. Kmart was a true retail giant in the 1980s, a name synonymous with American family shopping. Famous for selling a wide variety of products, from clothing, housewares to toys, at discount prices, Kmart was a shopping destination for nearly everything. What made Kmart memorable and generated extreme excitement was the store's famous Blue Light Specials program. When the blue light turned on and an announcement was made about a steeply discounted item for a short time, shoppers would rush to that area, creating a unique and engaging experience. Some Kmart stores even had on-site dining options, with a small cafe or food court, adding to the convenience. Kmart grew quickly in the 1980s. However, this pace of expansion was also part of the reason for their decline, making it difficult to maintain and manage a large number of stores. Although once a pioneer, Kmart began to look outdated and could not compete effectively with more modern and supply chain efficient retailers like Walmart and Target. Even a large brand can be left behind if it fails to innovate and update the customer shopping experience. Gemco. Gemco was a very popular membership-based retail chain in the 80s. Known as a one-stop shopping experience, Gemco offered everything from groceries, electronics, to home appliances, appealing to budget-conscious families. Customers paid a membership fee to enjoy the added benefit of member-only discounts and good quality merchandise. Gemco's uniqueness also lay in its customer service, even offering in-store childcare while customers shopped, an incredible convenience for parents. The membership model, which was a strength, eventually became a burden. When emerging competitors like Walmart and Target offered a similar one-stop shopping experience without requiring membership fees, Gemco's advantage was severely eroded. Consumers began questioning the value of the membership fee when they could shop for equally low prices elsewhere. Gemco could not maintain profitability in the new competitive environment. The collapse was swift, leading to the chain closing in 1986, ending prematurely a unique and convenient retail model. Western Auto. Western Auto was a fixture in the 1980s retail scene, a trustworthy name that served the do-it-yourself culture. The store served as a single stop for auto parts, accessories, and other household items. For car owners, Western Auto not only provided replacement parts, but also the necessary support and advice for those who like to care for their own vehicles. The store also diversified its products, including tools, sporting equipment, and home appliances, reflecting the broader retail diversification trend of that era. However, the automotive and home retail landscape began to change in the 1990s. The emergence of specialized auto parts chains and mass retailers put pressure on Western Auto. The brand's decline began when Western Auto was acquired by Sears in the 1990s. This acquisition ultimately led to rebranding and the gradual closure of stores. Under Sears' ownership, the iconic Western Auto name gradually disappeared from the streets, making way for newer retail business models. Eckerd. Eckerd was a famous drugstore chain, a convenient and reliable location for families seeking health and beauty products in the 80s. This was a major name offering convenient one-stop shopping for daily necessities, from makeup to over-the-counter medication. Eckerd capitalized on a major trend of the time: photo developing services. With the popularity of film cameras, Eckerd became a popular and trustworthy place for customers to drop off film and pick up physical photo prints, an important service before the digital photo era. Eckerd faced fierce competition from two other emerging giants in the drugstore industry, Walgreens and CVS. These rivals built larger, more modern, and more efficient store networks. To survive, Eckerd had to seek consolidation. The chain merged with Rite Aid in the 2000s. Although the store chain continued to operate in a different form, the familiar name Eckerd was officially eliminated and vanished from the nation's largest drugstores. Electric Avenue. Electric Avenue was the electronics division of Montgomery Ward, and in the 1980s, it was an ideal place to shop for electronics. This store offered a wide range of products from televisions, stereo systems to the newest technology gadgets, capitalizing on the increasing demand for home entertainment. With the boom of video and high-quality audio equipment, Electric Avenue served as a major provider of the necessary devices to enhance the family entertainment experience. Electric Avenue was also known for its aggressive sales tactics. Sales staff frequently pushed extended warranties and supplementary products, reflecting the high-pressure sales environment typical of the electronics retail industry at the time. This was part of a controversial shopping experience, but a sign of the era. Electric Avenue's biggest problem was not its sales model, but its parent company. As the parent company Montgomery Ward faced increasing financial difficulties and eventual bankruptcy, Electric Avenue also struggled to maintain profitability, leading to its closure in the 1990s. Egghead Software. Egghead Software was a computer software retailer founded in 1984, right at the peak of the personal computer boom. For those needing the newest software, Egghead was the primary destination, offering a variety of applications from utilities to games. The store stood out by offering unique discount membership cards. By 1987, the chain had quickly expanded, reaching 50 stores along the West Coast. The software market changed quickly. Egghead faced difficult times, including a decline in stock price and inventory management issues. As the internet began to become the primary software distribution channel, Egghead's physical retail model became obsolete. In 1998, Egghead had to close most stores and attempted to transition to online sales. Despite the effort, the company could not withstand the competition and eventually filed for bankruptcy in 2001. Egghead's final legacy was its domain name being sold to Amazon.com, a clear sign of the ultimate winner in the e-commerce battle. Kids R Us. Kids R Us was a name inseparable from Toys R Us, launched in 1983 as the corporation's clothing and children's products brand. Kids R Us was established as a specialized store, offering high-quality clothing at affordable prices, aiming to be the leading destination for children's apparel necessities. The existence of Kids R Us showed Toys R Us' ambition to expand from toys into the broader clothing retail sector. Kids R Us was often located near major Toys R Us stores, utilizing the customer traffic already familiar with the R Us brand. Throughout the 80s and 90s, it was a popular choice for parents shopping for back-to-school and everyday clothing. And when the parent company Toys R Us began struggling with debt burdens and competition from other mass retailers, Kids R Us shared the same fate. Despite having a strong business model in the children's clothing segment, the chain could not maintain profitability amid the corporate decline. 25 forgotten grocery stores that should still exist today. Let's join us on a journey back to childhood shopping trips, where familiar scents and family loyalty reigned supreme. Why did the giant A&P with its 16,000 stores collapse miserably? Why was the Dominick's chain, bought back by the family for $100 million, later sold off by their descendants due to a lack of passion? We will discover the bitter secrets behind the collapse of store chains that should still be around today. Alpha Beta. In the history of California retail, Alpha Beta holds a special place, a store chain that won over customers with its uniqueness, starting with the way it arranged its products. Albert and Hugh Gerard opened the first Alpha Beta store in 1917 in Pomona, California. The name was neither random nor a preferred moniker. It referred directly to how they organized and stocked goods. They arranged goods on the shelves alphabetically, creating a display system that was easy to find and completely different from their contemporary competitors. This simple innovation quickly helped Alpha Beta make its mark and attract customers with a logical shopping experience. The chain was not only famous for this arrangement method, but also for its familiar mascot, the smiling cowboy Alfie. By 1961, the chain's growth peaked with more than 100 stores, confirming Alpha Beta's solid position in the market. However, Alpha Beta's success story quickly became a cautionary tale about the dangers of continuous mergers and acquisitions. The company was acquired by American Stores in 1961. Then Skaggs Drug Centers acquired American Stores in 1979. Under the new ownership, the combined food and drug stores in the Alpha Beta area were rebranded as Skaggs Alpha Beta, a complex name reflecting the increasingly convoluted corporate structure. Furthermore, after the company acquired Jewel Companies, which owned Osco Drug, some stores even bore the hybrid name Jewel Osos or Jewlascos, completely weakening the chain's original identity. This complexity in ownership structure and branding caused Alpha Beta to lose connection with its customers. Finally, in 1994, the company merged with the Ralph's chain, Kohl's. Before becoming the famous department store chain we know today, Kohl's, believe it or not, had a humble and ambitious beginning as a grocery store. The story began when Maxwell Kohl opened the first Kohl's food store in 1946 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. The 1950s were a period of rapid growth, expanding the grocery retail operation. This was also when Kohl's introduced the arch-to-roof design, an architectural feature that later became an identifying symbol of Kohl's. This modern design created a spacious, friendly shopping environment, attracting loyal customers in the area. Thanks to his sharp business acumen, by the early 1960s, Maxwell Kohl had built the company into the largest grocery store chain in the Milwaukee area. After achieving brilliant success in the grocery sector, Kohl decided to diversify his strategy. In 1962, he ventured into the department store segment, opening the first location in Brookfield, Wisconsin. Although the grocery segment was the original foundation, building the company's reputation and capital, ultimately, the department store segment lasted longer than the grocery segment. The transfer of ownership put an end to this grocery legacy. A&P, a giant that was weakening but still financially powerful, acquired Kohl's grocery division in 1982. Although A&P tried to maintain operations for a short time, they eventually permanently closed the Kohl's grocery stores in 2003. Unfortunately, a grocery empire built on innovation and rapid growth was killed off by corporate consolidation, leaving only the name associated with the department store segment later on. Dominick's is a passionate family business story in Chicago, where personal passion created success, but its absence in the subsequent generation led to collapse. Dominick DiMatteo, a native of Sicily, founded the Dominick's grocery chain in 1918. DiMatteo didn't just build stores, he built community loyalty. His second store opened in 1934. By 1950, the DiMatteo family had opened a large supermarket spanning 14,000 square feet and had reached 19 locations before they sold the chain to Fisher Foods in 1968. But the DiMatteo family was not entirely satisfied with stepping away. They continued to operate the stores with Fisher's backing, and under this management, Dominick's grew to 45 locations. Dissatisfied with the initial deal, the family decided to buy the chain back for a massive amount, $100 million. The 1980s were a period of active experimentation, with the expansion of new services such as in-store pharmacies, coffee shops, and photo processing services. However, tragedy struck. In the early 1990s, Dominick DiMatteo Jr. passed away. He left the business to his children, but sadly they did not share the same passion for the retail industry as their father and grandfather. This loss, combined with the lack of enthusiasm from the new leadership, paved the way for outside intervention. Schwegman Brothers, giant supermarkets. Schwegman Brothers is a unique retail legend for the New Orleans, Louisiana area. Although the company was officially founded in 1859, the Schwegman Brothers giant supermarkets that we remember were a branch established by John Schwegman in 1946. John Schwegman grew up in the grocery business, and his stores quickly served the needs of the New Orleans region. Throughout the 1950s and 1960s, the chain opened more locations. John Schwegman placed special emphasis on maintaining local relevance, and he was very loyal to Southeast Louisiana. Throughout its years of operation, the chain grew to 18 locations spread across New Orleans. The most notable point of innovation is that Schwegman stores are considered the forerunner of the big box concept, a model that other competitors would later adopt. Their legacy is fondly remembered, not only for its scale, but also for its community engagement. However, in the 1990s, Schwegman Brothers made a serious financial mistake. A bad acquisition deal caused the company to face severe cash flow shortages. Although they tried to hold on for a few more years, they could not recover. First National Stores. First National Stores, often referred to by loyal customers as Finest, was a grocery chain with deep roots in the history of the Northeast United States. The chain's history can be traced back to the 1800s. Finest operated for decades from its headquarters in Somerset, Massachusetts, building a solid brand that represented quality and reliability in the region. The stability began to shake in 1978 when it was acquired by another grocery chain, Pick and Pay. Following this transaction, Finest's New England operations had to relocate to Connecticut, causing significant disruption to operations and customer loyalty. A decade later, a Dutch parent company which owned the Buy Low chain acquired First National. Instead of retaining the historic Finest brand, the Dutch parent company began converting Finest stores into Stop and Shops. This was a brutal but common strategy, eliminating the old brand to strengthen the newer, more powerful brand in the market. Although the transition happened gradually, some First National stores still existed until the early 1990s. However, their fate was sealed. The last stores closed in 1993, ending a retail legacy spanning nearly a century and a half. Bruno's. Bruno's is an inspiring family business story in Birmingham, Alabama. Joe Bruno founded the chain in 1932, starting with a tiny corner grocery store, only 800 square feet in size. Although the business grew slowly at first, thanks to dedicated management and smart expansion strategies, the chain gradually expanded and even launched a line of discount stores called Food World in the 1970s. By the early 1990s, Bruno's had reached its peak, becoming one of the top 40 grocery chains in the United States, with more than 200 stores across the South. Sadly, their success was tragically cut short. In 1991, the store chain suffered a tragic loss when a catastrophic plane crash killed top executives and many key members of the Bruno family. This loss was not just about personnel, but also the loss of leadership spirit and family cohesion. After the tragedy, the chain was sold off. Immediately, it lost the personal touch and family connection that had helped it thrive. Stores began closing gradually, and the company was shuffled through multiple acquisitions. Big Bear Stores. Big Bear Stores, founded by Wayne Brown in 1933, was a chain that left a significant mark on technological innovation in the retail industry. The first store opened in Columbus, Ohio. The chain quickly grew, becoming a large grocery chain across Ohio and West Virginia. What made Big Bear historical was that it was the company that first introduced the motorized conveyor belt at the checkout counter. This was a revolutionary innovation, making the checkout process faster and more convenient. However, starting in the 1980s, they faced fierce competitive difficulties. To cope, they experimented with a new superstore model combining groceries with general merchandise, called Big Bear Plus. In 1988, the company was auctioned off. The new management, in a desperate attempt to salvage the situation, cut overhead costs and laid off many employees. The result was severe deterioration of store conditions, and customers quickly noticed the difference. The chain never regained trust and began having trouble paying suppliers. By 2004, everything was over and the last Big Bear store closed. Jitney Jungle. Initially, the store was called Jitney Jungle, but a humorous printing error in a local newspaper published an advertisement calling it Jitney Jungle, and the name stuck. Jitney Jungle was one of the first stores that dared to challenge the traditional retail model by adopting the cash and carry model, pay and take it yourself. They became major rivals of Piggly Wiggly, a chain that also claimed to be the pioneer of the self-service concept. The dispute over the ownership of the self-service idea led to a tense legal battle. Jitney Jungle subsequently won the case at the Supreme Court, proving that Piggly Wiggly had not invented the self-service idea. This legal victory reinforced their position as a true innovator. Jitney Jungle continued to thrive, expanding into neighboring states and building a chain of more than 100 stores. At one point, it was even the largest privately held grocery chain in the United States. Everything started to decline when the family decided to sell the company in the mid-1990s for $400 million. The new ownership failed to maintain the legacy, and by the end of the decade, the company became an entity mired in debt. Finally, it was acquired by Winn-Dixie, and the remaining stores were rebranded, leaving the legendary name Jitney Jungle as just a memory. A&P, the Great Atlantic and Pacific Tea Company. The story of A&P, or the Great Atlantic and Pacific Tea Company, is a historical tale of unimaginable dominance and a slow, tragic collapse. The company's beginning was quite modest, primarily selling prepackaged tea. However, A&P quickly spread across the country with nearly 200 stores and a thriving mail-order business system at the turn of the century. A&P differentiated itself through a groundbreaking pricing strategy. They adopted the no-frills model, cutting all unnecessary costs to ensure lower selling prices. This low-price strategy led to an unprecedented store boom, with the number of locations skyrocketing. By 1930, A&P reached its glorious peak with an astonishing number, 16,000 stores. They naturally became the largest grocer in America. Their initial focus became a fatal weakness. A&P focused primarily on urban cities. When Americans began the Great Migration to the suburbs, A&P failed to adapt quickly and entered an irreversible period of decline. By the late 1970s, only about 1,500 stores remained. Although they returned to profitability in the 1980s, it was very fragile. By the early 2000s, they were falling into losses again, and bankruptcy began to loom. If this video brought back good memories, give it a hype. Your support keeps nostalgic content like this alive. Delchamps. Delchamps was a long-standing grocery chain with a strong heritage in the Gulf Coast region. It started in Mobile, Alabama in 1921, founded by Alfred Delchamps. With a vision for growth as early as 1928, Alfred Delchamps opened the largest supermarket in Alabama. The chain then began to spread rapidly, expanding into Florida and neighboring states, eventually reaching over 100 locations. In the 1980s, Delchamps demonstrated a pioneering spirit by experimenting with new superstore concepts, even opening 24 hours. This innovation showed that Delchamps tried to adapt to changing consumer shopping habits to remain competitive. However, all efforts proved futile when the chain was acquired by Jitney Jungle in 1997. This deal combined two struggling chains. Just 2 years later, both Jitney Jungle and Delchamps entered bankruptcy. This merger clearly did not create a stronger entity, but only dragged both down. Finally, by 2000, all locations bearing the Delchamps name had closed. Furr's Supermarkets. Furr's Supermarkets is an ambitious family business story in the Southwest. The Furr brothers started the chain in West Texas and expanded into New Mexico. By the 1970s, they had built a substantial empire, including 140 grocery stores and a famous restaurant chain called Furr's Cafeteria. However, overexpansion, especially into competitive markets, proved disastrous. In 1979, after becoming too financially strained and overextending the business, Furr's was forced to file for bankruptcy. The company was split. The grocery chain was sold to a German company, and the restaurant business was acquired by Kmart. Furr's continued to exist as one of the main grocery stores around Texas and New Mexico, but they could never secure enough investment to grow larger or modernize facilities. The chain could not compete effectively in the new millennium as larger rivals emerged. By 2001, Furr's filed for bankruptcy again and liquidated all assets shortly thereafter. Big Star. Colonial Stores, later known as Big Star, was one of the nation's largest supermarket chains for much of the 20th century. David Pender founded the company in 1901 in Norfolk, Virginia. At its peak, the company had over 500 stores and operated in 11 states, spanning from Florida to Maryland. The Colonial name originated in the mid-1940s after the merger of Big Star and Little Star grocery stores. In 1947, the company introduced the famous CS Rooster logo as they converted all their stores to the self-service model. By the 1960s, Colonial Stores decided to revert to using the name Big Star to operate as a large-scale discount operation. This transition showed their efforts to compete on price. Despite attempts to transition, Big Star ultimately only lasted until the early 1990s, when the chain also closed permanently. If you had the power to bring one of these chains back to life, which one would you choose? Share your thoughts below. Bi-Lo. Bi-Lo was a famous chain with a strong presence in the South, starting in 1961. The founder was Frank Outlaw, a former Winn-Dixie executive who purchased 4 grocery stores in Greenville, South Carolina. He renamed them Bi-Lo after a naming contest with the name suggested by his secretary. Bi-Lo quickly spread across Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Tennessee. The chain became particularly known for the bull statues placed on the roofs of its stores, a recognizable image for Southern customers. However, the stability of the family business did not last. In 1977, Bi-Lo was sold to a Dutch food company, which began merging other chains into the Bi-Lo brand. They kept the company for more than 30 years before selling it in 2005. Over the next 10 years, the chain struggled, repeatedly filing for and emerging from bankruptcy. Finally, Bi-Lo merged with Winn-Dixie to become Southeastern Grocers. By 2021, the historic Bi-Lo name was completely eliminated, ending the existence of the stores with the familiar bull image. Food Fair. Food Fair is a classic example of rebranding due to the unexpected success of a private label, but ultimately failing due to financial issues. The chain was founded by Samuel Friedland in the late 1920s in Pennsylvania, originally called Reading Giant Quality Price Cutter. By the 1940s, the name was changed to Food Fair, and they grew to over 250 locations by the mid-1950s. The major turning point came in the 1960s when the company acquired a small Philadelphia chain called Best Markets. Best had a private label called Pantry's Pride. Food Fair used this name when opening a discount store in New Jersey. That store became extremely popular to the point that eventually all Food Fair stores were converted into Pantry Pride. Despite the successful rebranding, it could not save the company from deeper issues. Serious financial problems led the chain to file for bankruptcy in the late 1970s. From then on, the chain was continuously bought and sold throughout the following decade. Have you ever worked at any of these grocery chains? Share your most memorable memory. Eagle. Eagle Food Centers was a beloved grocery chain in the Midwest, serving communities in Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, and Wisconsin. The chain was founded in Davenport, Iowa in 1893. Eagle Food Centers was famous for being one of the first grocery stores to understand the benefits of self-service. They allowed customers to serve themselves in exchange for lower prices. This created a significant competitive advantage and helped the chain build a reputation as a family-friendly, affordable supermarket in the area. Throughout its history, the chain underwent many mergers and acquisitions, causing its name to change repeatedly. The name Eagle always remained part of the brand. The chain peaked with more than 130 locations in 1989. Soon after, the company went public. However, the emergence of national giant supermarket chains, such as Kroger and Walmart, signaled a major shift in the regional market. This chain could not compete with the scale and ability of larger rivals to absorb losses. Supermarket profits tend to be quite low. Joe Lackey, president of the Indiana Grocery and Convenience Store Association, once shared that even a small impact can push a store out of the market. When a new store appears, they attract customers rushing in to see what it offers. Large chains can truly handle market changes better because they have more stores over which to spread the losses. Due to increased competition, Eagle Food Centers reported a net loss of $1.5 million in 1999. This implicitly foreshadowed a sad end: Food World. Food World was not an entirely independent chain, but rather an important sub-brand launched by Bruno's Supermarkets in the 1970s. This was a line of discount stores designed to serve the market segment seeking lower prices, a smart strategy by Bruno's to diversify its retail model. Although Food World was part of the parent company Bruno's, it remained an important and widely recognized retail brand in the South. The introduction of Food World showed Bruno's adaptability, as they realized that not all customers were looking for a premium or full-service shopping experience. In the economic context of the 1970s and beyond, the discount model became extremely appealing to consumers. Bruno's opening of Food World helped them become one of the top 40 grocery chains in the United States in the early 1990s. Food World helped Bruno's cover a wider market scope, offering a low-price option to compete with emerging chains. Unfortunately, the fate of Food World was tied to the tragedy of its parent company, Bruno's. After the 1991 plane crash that claimed the lives of executives and Bruno family members, the chain was sold off and lost its dedicated management. As Bruno's lost its personal touch and struggled under various acquisitions, the Food World brand also gradually declined. The disappearance of Food World marks the end of a successful attempt to provide affordable groceries under a recognized brand in the South. Mars Supermarkets. Mars Supermarkets was a family-owned chain that was a fixture in the Baltimore, Maryland area for over 50 years. The chain started in the mid-1940s. Joseph Dina named his supermarket after a nearby airplane that could take off and land on water called the Mars Flying Boat. Joseph later sold his shares to his two younger brothers, and they ran the chain for over 50 years. At its peak, there were 13 stores around Maryland, maintained until 2016. However, the retail market in Maryland became increasingly fierce. Although they attempted cost-cutting measures, Mars ultimately could not compete with large chains entering the market like Wegmans and Harris Teeter. The lack of competitiveness in scale and pricing sealed their fate. In 2016, Mars sold 5 of its stores to Wise Markets and decided to close the remaining locations. The collapse of Mars is a painful reminder that even beloved family stores cannot survive without cost competitiveness. Jewel Osos. Jewel Osos, also known as Jewel Ascos, is a classic example of brand chaos following complex acquisitions, particularly in the Alpha Beta story. This name does not represent an independent store chain, but rather a hybrid offshoot of other brands. The story began after Alpha Beta was acquired by Skaggs Drug Centers in 1979, becoming Skaggs Alpha Beta. The complexity did not stop there. In the late 1980s, the parent company went on to acquire Jewel Companies, which owned the Osco drug chain. To integrate these new food and pharmacy assets, some stores in the former Alpha Beta territory were rebranded as Jewel-Ascos. This strange name was a portmanteau of Jewel and Alpha Beta, demonstrating the company's attempt to leverage both brands in the same location. Although a necessary corporate invention, it caused confusion for customers. Eventually, this temporary and confusing name disappeared when the company merged with the Ralph's chain in 1994, ending any legacy of the hybrid name. It is truly a shame to see such memorable brands disappear. Whether due to changes in management, uncontrollable debt, the emergence of new giants, or wrong parent company decisions, each of these store chains carries a unique historical story about American life and culture. Pathmark. Pathmark was one of the most powerful grocery chains in the Northeast United States from the 1970s to the 2000s. The chain was founded in New Jersey in the 1960s by a group of grocers who decided to break away from the parent company, Wakefern Foods, which owned the ShopRite chain. This separation brought great success. By 1969, they had 81 locations. In the early 1980s, Pathmark became the 10th largest supermarket chain in the United States, with revenue of nearly $3 billion. This was the era when chains began pursuing the supercenter concept. Pathmark followed this trend, exploring larger stores, but this strategy led to significant debt as they entered the 1990s. Although the company sought buyers, it wasn't until 2007 that A&P acquired Pathmark. A&P attempted to try new concepts, but A&P was struggling to manage its own debt. By 2015, A&P had filed for bankruptcy twice, marking the end of Pathmark. Nevertheless, the Pathmark name made a hopeful return when the naming rights were acquired and a store reopened in Brooklyn, New York. Cash and carry. Even an initially effective business model can be destroyed by the instability of the parent company. Cash and Carry was a Florida-based grocery chain with a volatile history and constantly changing ownership. The chain began in 1947 in Plant City, Florida. Initially, it was named Big Barn. After opening additional locations in Central Florida, the grocery chain officially became Cash and Carry in 1960. This name referred to a business model based on low prices and convenience, similar to the original Jitney Jungle model. However, from 1979 onwards, the chain began to be drawn into a series of mergers and acquisitions. It was sold to California-based Lucky Stores. Subsequently, the chain continued to undergo a series of transactions, leading to internal and strategic instability. The instability in ownership and retail strategy made it impossible for Cash and Carry to maintain its position. Ultimately, the chain ended up bankrupt in 1994. Sweetbay Supermarket. The story of Sweetbay Supermarket is the brief rebirth of the Cash and Carry chain. In 1995, Food Lion owned what remained of Cash and Carry and decided to discontinue the old brand. The company transitioned to a new name, Sweetbay Supermarket. By 2007, all Cash and Carry stores were redesigned as Sweetbays. Sweetbay tried to create a new image, but they could not withstand pressure from larger market competitors. Specifically, they could not effectively compete with Publix and discount stores like Walmart. This failure to establish a solid foothold forced them to sell themselves. Finally, Sweetbay was sold in 2013, and many of its locations were converted into Winn-Dixies, ending the existence of the Sweetbay Supermarket name after less than 2 decades. Farmer Jack. Farmer Jack was an ambitious and beloved grocery chain in Michigan. The chain started in 1966 in Detroit by the brothers Tom and Al Borman, who had extensive experience in the grocery industry dating back to the 1920s. They opened Farmer Jack stores in 3 new suburban shopping centers, and the chain quickly became a favorite spot for shoppers, spreading throughout Southeast Michigan. Farmer Jack's biggest ambition was to go national, and they took a bold step by acquiring 60 Safeway locations in Utah and southern Idaho in 1987. However, within a year, they realized this expansion was ineffective and had to sell them back to Albertsons. Simultaneously in Michigan, a cashier strike cost the company millions of dollars. Although 79 Michigan stores were subsequently acquired by A&P in 1989, and Farmer Jack even brought profits to A&P in the 1990s, they made a major mistake entering the new millennium. They failed to acknowledge lower-priced competitors like Kroger. The failure to compete on price led to gradual closures, and the final location closed in 2007. Bohack. Bohack carries a deep historical legacy of New York, a chain that started in 1887 with a single store in Brooklyn. The founder, Henry Bohack, expanded stores throughout New York City and Long Island. He also ventured into other areas such as gas stations and restaurants, but the Great Depression ended those projects. When Henry Bohack passed away in 1931, his family and nephews continued operations. By the late 1960s, Bohack had reached nearly 750 locations. The family took the company public, then transferred control to Gulf and Western Industries. Bohack stores were an integral part of the social fabric of New York City. However, Gulf and Western pushed a flawed strategy, expanding outside of New York City. This decision proved disastrous during the economic recession of the 1970s. Accumulating debt and multiple consecutive bankruptcies led to all Bohack stores closing permanently in 1977. Red Owl. Red Owl probably has one of the most unique origins among these chains. It started in 1922 as a coal company associated with General Mills. The first grocery store opened in Rochester, Minnesota, and they sold a mix of items: groceries, dry goods, and coal. This model was highly successful, helping the chain expand across the Midwest, eventually totaling over 400 locations. These stores were usually smaller than large supermarkets, but were famous for having many shopping options. Red Owl was more than just a grocery chain. It became a part of Minnesota culture. It was even prominently featured in the opening credits of The Mary Tyler Moore Show. However, in 1988, the chain was sold to the wholesaler SuperValu. Following this transaction, the Red Owl name was gradually phased out, except for one franchise store still operating in Green Bay, Wisconsin, Big Bear Plus. Big Bear Plus is a particularly important store concept in the story of the collapse of Big Bear stores. When Big Bear stores faced fierce competitive difficulties in the 1980s, management made a bold decision to experiment with the superstore model. Big Bear Plus was not just a regular grocery store, it was a combination of groceries with general merchandise. The goal was to create a one-stop shopping destination to compete with the emergence of larger retail chains. However, Big Bear Plus became a failed effort. This model required large investment costs and complexity in inventory management, which Big Bear at the time could not afford. After the company was auctioned off in 1988, cost-cutting decisions and the deterioration of stores prevented Big Bear from recovering. Big Bear Plus is an example of a strategy that was right for the time but wrong for the company. Let's preserve these precious memories together and pass them down to future generations. If these beautiful memories bring you a smile and evoke fond recollections, don't forget to hit the like, share, and subscribe buttons to Back to Yesterday so you don't miss the next nostalgic journeys. Thank you for watching.